21st of January, 1943, 18:47 hours. Point Cruz, Guadalcanal. Sergeant Takeshi Yamamoto perched 73 feet high in a banyan tree, 180 yards west of the American supply route. Beneath him, American troops transported provisions toward Henderson Field, oblivious that 11 Japanese marksmen observed their every movement. Within 72 hours, Yamamoto's squad had eliminated 14 Americans. Corporal Davis, during January 19th, struck at a stream. 2 soldiers from L Company during January 20th. 3 additional targets during January 21st. Yamamoto had reached 31 years of age, 27 months instruction at the Imperial Army Marksman School. His 11-soldier squad represented 242 months of collective instruction, exceeding 20 years of concentrated expertise. Positioned in the coconut groves west of Point Cruz, each soldier possessed an Arisaka Type 98 rifle equipped with a 2.5x optical sight. Yamamoto's rifle had eliminated 17 enemy combatants since August 1942. He maintained it each evening, inspecting scope attachments, shielding it from moisture. Imperial Army philosophy emphasized personal capability over hardware. A qualified marksman required 2 years. Shooting accuracy, concealment, movement, endurance. American troops received weeks of fundamental rifle instruction. Japanese marksmen trained for years. This distinction would determine the conflict. American manufacturing produced rifles more rapidly, but they couldn't produce qualified troops more rapidly. Excellence would overcome numbers. 21st of January evening, Major Takeda praised Yamamoto's squad. 14 casualties, 0 Japanese fatalities, outstanding, maintain operations, protect the retreat. At 2300 hours, the 11 marksmen dispersed to designated locations. Yamamoto ascended to 73 feet in his banyan tree. Tomorrow would commence like every day since August. Japanese marksmen would eliminate Americans. Americans would pursue Japanese marksmen. Cycle maintained for 5 months. What Yamamoto couldn't anticipate, tomorrow at 9:17, everything would transform. An American lieutenant designated John George would discharge a civilian hunting weapon with a mail-purchase scope. That discharge would shatter everything Yamamoto understood about combat. But tonight, observing through his scope, Yamamoto felt assured. His squad was superior. 14 Americans eliminated in 72 hours confirmed it. Tomorrow would be another productive day. The Imperial Army Marksman Initiative commenced in 1932. Entrance requirements: 10 discharges at 300 meters, all within a 6-inch diameter. Only 3% qualified. 27 months instruction. Phase 1, 9 months. 10,000 rounds, shooting fundamentals. Phase 2, 12 months. Field techniques, concealment, movement. Phase 3, 6 months, combat rehearsals. Ultimate examination. Eliminate 3 instructors pursuing you within 72 hours without discovery. Graduates achieve Tokushihei status, special combatants. The Arisaka Type 98 equipped with Type 97 scope. 2.5 times magnification. Operational to 500 meters. Bolt mechanism. Exceptional accuracy, Japanese philosophy. Engage at 200 to 400 meters, where qualified marksmen achieve reliable eliminations. Americans utilized the M1 Garand. Semi-automatic, 8 rounds, enhanced firepower close quarters, but precision beyond 300 yards was inadequate. American troops received 2 to 4 weeks fundamental instruction before deployment. Americans possessed no structured marksman initiative. Certain units maintained designated shooters with above-standard capability, but no specialized instruction. Standard Garands equipped with iron sights. This established substantial Japanese superiority. At Point Cruz, Yamamoto's squad demonstrated it continuously. 14 casualties, 0 fatalities. Japanese philosophy anticipated this would persist. Enhanced instruction would offset inadequate industrial capability. 1 qualified Japanese combatant could eliminate 10 inadequately trained Americans. But during January 22, 1943, at 9:17, those anticipations would encounter a civilian hunting weapon that shouldn't have existed on a Pacific combat zone. 22nd of January, 1943, 0917 hours. Yamamoto detected the report. Distinct from a Garand, more acute, louder. An American had discharged toward one of his soldiers. Yamamoto surveyed through his scope, then observed activity. A damaged bunker 320 yards southeast. His squad had reconnoitered it yesterday, vacant, deserted, excessively exposed. But presently someone occupied it. American uniform, lieutenant markings, and a weapon that appeared incorrect. Excessively elongated, excessively slender, distinct barrel configuration, wooden stock extending complete length, and attached on top, a scope. Larger than the Type 97, the American manipulated the bolt. Bolt mechanism not semi-automatic, a civilian weapon on Guadalcanal. At 9:24, Yamamoto's radio transmitted with a notification that Corporal Tanaka was struck. Tanaka, 23 years of age. Superior marksman, 34 verified eliminations. The notification verified the elimination. Tanaka was 87 feet high in a tree and was neutralized by a single discharge, suspected to have originated from the bunker. Distance, 240 yards. Challenging with a Garand and iron sights. But with a scope, a 2.5 times scope at 240 yards rendered a soldier appear 60 yards distant. Wind calculation was simpler, distance more precise. Yamamoto commanded all locations to reposition immediately, preserving concealment, and not to participate, as the American marksman at the seized bunker was utilizing a scoped weapon. At 9:43 the report came again, identical sound. A subsequent notification declared that Watanabe was struck, neutralized by the identical weapon. Second superior marksman. 2 soldiers eliminated in 26 minutes. Both his most experienced marksmen. Identical American, not fortune, methodical capability. At 10:08 they detected gunfire. Multiple discharges, Garands, bar, a notification arrived 43 seconds afterward, declaring that Kobayashi, Fujimoto, and Hayashi were neutralized during repositioning when they were confronted by a patrol. 3 more eliminated, not from the marksman, from a patrol discovering them while relocating. 5 soldiers lost in 51 minutes, nearly half his squad, including his 2 superior marksmen. Yamamoto concentrated on the bunker. The American was patient. Professional methodology? This soldier possessed instruction comparable to Yamamoto's, but that weapon, that civilian weapon with the oversized scope, that was the distinction. At 10:34, Yamamoto determined. 6 marksmen remained. They required eliminating this danger. Yamamoto announced he would attract the American marksman's focus in Sector 9 and commanded Sato to maneuver northeast and execute the discharge. Sato acknowledged and relocated into location 190 yards distant, observing. Standard counter-marksman strategy. Yamamoto would discharge at sandbags. American rotates toward him. Sato discharges exposed position. Yamamoto discharged. Projectile struck sandbag 18 inches from American's head. The American rolled left immediately, flawless, precisely as anticipated. Then Yamamoto detected the report from the bunker. Not from Sato, the American had discharged. At Sato. 8 seconds afterward, Sato's voice transmitted over the radio, faint, reporting he was struck in the shoulder and could not persist. Yamamoto's discharge should have attracted focus away. But the American recognized the greater danger and responded. This American comprehended Japanese strategies, predicted the flanking maneuver. Yamamoto commanded all locations to withdraw and return to the assembly location. They would retreat. 5 eliminated, 1 wounded. 11-soldier squad reduced to 5 in 2 hours. But worse than casualties, the comprehension forming. This American's hardware wasn't specialized military equipment. The weapon appeared like something a civilian possessed for hunting, which indicated American civilians possessed access to optics comparable to or superior to Japanese military hardware, which indicated American manufacturing could produce these in volume, which indicated Japanese anticipations about hardware superiority through instruction were incorrect, which indicated Japan was losing for reasons possessing nothing connected to warrior determination. 11:47 hours, assembly location. Yamamoto requested Sato to describe what he observed. Sato clarified that when Yamamoto discharged, the American didn't observe toward his location. He observed directly at Sato's and discharged immediately. The American recognized Sato was there before Yamamoto discharged. The American had detected Sato relocating into location. His optics could recognize movement at 200 yards through vegetation. The notification on Tanaka's location was also examined. Tanaka was in a large banyan tree 87 feet high with adequate concealment, but the American observed him at 240 yards through branches. That scope must possess greater than 2.5 times magnification. Japanese Type 97 scopes. 2.5 times magnification, sufficient for 400 yards open landscape. In vegetation, operational distance decreased to 250 yards. If the American scope possessed 4 times, twice Japanese power, operational distance would increase proportionally. He could participate at 400 yards in vegetation. Civilian scopes with 4x existed. Yamamoto had studied about them pre-conflict. American manufacturers produced them for hunting. Costly, exceeding a combatant's annual compensation, but accessible. Had the military distributed these? Or had this American purchased it himself? Either scenario was concerning. First indicated methodical initiative to equip Americans with precision capability. Second indicated civilians possessed access to hardware superior to Japanese military distribution. Corporal Nakamura was questioned about the weapon. He verified civilian manufacture, wooden stock, longer barrel than Garand. Bolt mechanism, large scope, larger than Type 97. He calculated 4 times magnification based on the objective lens diameter, 4 times magnification. This clarified everything. Yamamoto considered their alternatives: 6 soldiers remaining, objective, protect retreat. The American marksman rendered current locations untenable. He selected the alternative to operate from 400+ yards beyond the scoped weapon distance. The risk was diminished Japanese accuracy and fewer eliminations. This diminished effectiveness was superior to destruction. But then the comprehension. This American was 1 soldier, 1 weapon, 1 scope. If American philosophy included distributing civilian scopes, how many additional, how many in Philippines, other islands? And if civilians could purchase commercially? If factories produced sufficient that civilians could afford them for hunting? How many millions existed in America? Japan's annual Type 97 production, 12,000 units. Distributed among hundreds of thousands. Only marksmen received them. Only after 27 months instruction. America with 10 times manufacturing capability, 120,000 military scopes, but civilian production was independent. Americans purchased scopes for hunting. Total American production, military plus civilian, could be millions annually. Yamamoto comprehended weapons, strategies, instruction. What he didn't comprehend, industrial mathematics. Japan instructed thousands of marksmen over 2 years. Each required 27 months and a Type 97 from Kokura Arsenal. America possessed civilians owning hunting weapons with scopes superior to Japanese military. These civilians drafted, distributed Garands, deployed to Pacific. If they transported civilian weapons, they became instant counter-marksmen without years of instruction. Not an equitable contest. Individual craftsmanship versus mass manufacturing. And Yamamoto comprehended which would prevail. 23rd of January, 0815. Reposition to 420 yards from American positions. But at 420 yards, Yamamoto's Type 98 with 2.5x could barely recognize targets. Vegetation obscured visual lines. He observed a patrol of 8 soldiers aimed at the leading combatant. Crosshairs wavered due to wind. The target was behind a tree. Yamamoto waited until the target reappeared and discharged. It was a clean discharge. The combatant dropped. But the patrol didn't panic. They secured cover. They calculated his location from the sound. He chambered another round. Aimed at the second target and discharged. He missed by 2 feet to the left. The patrol returned fire with Garand snapping through branches. He was compelled to relocate. The outcome? 1 casualty from 8 discharges. Before the American marksman, his ratio was 1-to-1. Presently, it was 1-to-8. 3 days elapsed, 14 engagements, 67 rounds discharged, 6 neutralized, 11 wounded, 17 casualties from 67 discharges, a 25% contact rate. Before the American, a 71% contact rate at under 300 yards. But they weren't at 300 yards anymore. They were at 400 plus because closer indicated risking the American marksman. 24th of January, the American neutralized 2 more Japanese. Distinct unit, identical acute weapon sound. Identical methodical eliminations. 25th of January, evacuation commenced, destroyers at night. Yamamoto's squad was designated to provide covering fire and evacuate with the final deployment. The American neutralized 3 more that day at 9:17, 14:23, and 16:41. All were attempting covering fire. All were neutralized before engaging patrols. Yamamoto listened to each notification. The pattern was evident. The American was methodically eliminating Japanese marksmen, not infantry, not officers' marksmen. It was a counter-marksman philosophy executed with industrial-era hardware. 26th of January, 0430. Ultimate evacuation commands were received. Before departing, Yamamoto documented for 47 minutes. He recorded the weapon, civilian, bolt mechanism, oversized scope. Japan manufactured 12,000 Type 97 scopes annually. American production likely exceeded 100,000 units annually. This established an insurmountable superiority. Japanese instruction required 27 months per marksman. American manufacturing capability could equip combatants with precision optics in weeks. Individual capability could not compete with methodical mass manufacturing. 27 months of instruction. 17 verified eliminations. He commanded an elite squad that neutralized 14 Americans in 72 hours. In 4 days, 1 American with a civilian hunting weapon destroyed his squad and exposed the fundamental weakness in Japanese philosophy. Warrior determination was worthless against assembly operations. 0517. They reached Cape Esperance. Destroyers were offshore. The evacuation was organized. Yamamoto boarded the Kajero at 6:03. He observed Guadalcanal fade. Somewhere in those vegetation areas, the American was probably maintaining his civilian weapon, preparing for another day. Yamamoto questioned how many more existed. How many civilian hunters with precision scopes? How many factory workers producing optics more rapidly than Japanese arsenals? He didn't possess the exact numbers, but he possessed the answer, excessive, more than Japan could ever match. 3rd of February, 1943, Rabaul, Imperial Army Southeast Theater Headquarters. Yamamoto stood before Major General Maruyama. The notification had been submitted 5 days prior. Maruyama held the field notebook and studied it for 11 minutes without speaking. He summarized Yamamoto's discoveries. The American marksman utilized a civilian hunting weapon with optical sight substantially more powerful than the Type 97, a decisive superiority at distances where Japanese hardware couldn't match. Yamamoto verified his conclusion that American manufacturing capability was decisive. He reiterated that the hardware wasn't military distribution but civilian manufacture. American factories produced precision optics in sufficient volume that private citizens purchased them for hunting. He calculated that if Japan manufactured 12,000 Type 97 scopes annually, American production, military and civilian combined, must be orders of magnitude larger. Yamamoto was pressed on his statement that warrior determination was insufficient. He stated that he did not question the bravery of Japanese combatants. Instead, he questioned whether bravery compensated for enemy superiorities in hardware and manufacturing capability. He clarified that his highly instructed squad was defeated by one American with civilian hardware outperforming their military weapons. He stated it was a failure of material, not a failure of determination. Yamamoto could not precisely calculate the number of Americans like this, but he stated that if civilian hunting weapons with precision scopes were common, even a small percentage drafted represented tens of thousands of counter-marksmen, requiring minimal instruction because civilian experience already equipped them. His recommendation was that Japan must either match American production or develop tactical philosophy accounting for technological superiorities. Since matching appeared impossible due to American manufacturing capability being approximately 10 times greater, Japan must adapt. This indicated avoiding engagements where hardware superiorities were decisive and selecting battlefields minimizing manufacturing strengths. Maruyama interrupted, stating that this indicated accepting defeat. Yamamoto replied that it indicated recognizing reality. Japan could not wish away American factories or instruct past their production superiorities. Japan could combat skillfully, inflict casualties, and delay the advance. But unless Japan developed manufacturing capability comparable to America's, it could not prevail in an attrition conflict against mass-produced precision hardware. Maruyama closed the notebook, noted the notification, and commanded Yamamoto to return to his unit. The notification was filed without distribution or implementation. There was no philosophy modification. Modifying the philosophy would require acknowledging that warrior determination, instruction, and bushido were insufficient against manufacturing systems. That acknowledgement would undermine the entire strategic framework. Yamamoto was reassigned to New Guinea 3 weeks afterward. He survived until October 1944 when he was captured at Leyte and spent the remainder of the conflict in a POW camp in the Philippines. Post-conflict, he returned to Japan and never spoke publicly about Point Cruz, but privately he would reference the American with hunting weapon as the moment he comprehended Japan had lost. Approximate figures later verified that. America produced over 2.5 million civilian weapon scopes from 1940 to 1945, with military production being additional. Japan produced 60,000 Type 97 scopes during the identical period. American manufacturing capability was fundamentally distinct in scale. The command dismissed Yamamoto's February 1943 notification because adaptation required acknowledging instruction, bravery, and determination were insufficient against manufacturing systems. The American, 2nd Lieutenant John George, 132nd Infantry, continued through February. He instructed others in counter-marksman strategies and neutralized 14 Japanese marksmen total at Guadalcanal. His Winchester Model 70 equipped with a limb and Alaskan scope is presently at the National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia. The lesson learned at Point Cruz was simple. Civilian hunting weapon with mail-purchase scope could defeat 2 years of Imperial Army instruction because American factories produced precision more rapidly than Japanese schools produced marksmen. The Battle of Guadalcanal ended February 9, 1943. Japanese completed evacuation. American casualties were 7,100 neutralized and 7,789 wounded. Japanese casualties totaled 31,000 neutralized, wounded, and missing. The casualty ratio, 4-to-1 in America's favor, reflected not just tactical superiority but manufacturing superiority. Americans possessed more ammunition, hardware, and replacements, more everything. Japanese possessed bravery, instruction, and determination. But bravery cannot manufacture scopes. Instruction cannot produce ammunition. Determination cannot construct factories. Yamamoto survived Point Cruz, New Guinea, and the conflict. He lived to witness Japan rebuilt as a manufacturing power, aided by American investment. He observed Japanese factories produce automobiles, electronics, and cameras with precision optics exported worldwide. The irony was noted. Japan could produce precision optics after the conflict when American factories demonstrated them how. During the conflict, Japanese philosophy assumed instruction compensated for production limitations. After the conflict, Japanese manufacturing proved production, not instruction, was decisive. George returned to America, completed his education, and his book about Guadalcanal remains a standard reference. His Winchester Model 70 sits in a museum case, a reminder that civilian technology, mass-produced for recreation, could defeat military hardware restricted to elite specialists. The Point Cruz lesson was simple. Manufacturing systems defeat personal excellence when applied methodically. Japan instructed the world's superior marksmen. America equipped their farmers with hunting weapons. Japan prevailed in personal duels. America prevailed in the conflict.